Devon Taylor, Devon Taylor, Devon Taylor, Devon Taylor Podcast. Devon Taylor, Devon Taylor, Devon Taylor, Devon Taylor, Podcast.
Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Devon Taylor Podcast, where we have guests from all around the world tell their unique and powerful stories to not only allow their voice to be heard, but for you to leave feeling inspired. Today's guest is a visionary in the world of travel and social impact. Our next guest is the founder of Hands Up Holidays and Impact Destinations, two companies that are redefining what it means to travel with purpose. After starting his career in investment banking, a trip to South Africa changed everything, inspiring him to pioneer the concept of luxury volunteer travel. For nearly 2 decades, he has been helping families and organizations around the world experience meaningful adventures that combine service, sustainability, and unforgettable moments. Whether it's helping relocate rhinos in Africa or supporting community projects across Asia, his mission is to prove that giving back can be built into every journey. He is a true example of using business as a force for good, turning travel into transformation and philanthropy into purpose. Please welcome Christopher Hill. Hello.
Hey, Devon. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm really excited to learn more about what you're doing and kind of how you got into it. But I'd like to first start off with your kind of, where you started your career. You started in investment banking, but what was that turning point that kind of led you from finance to finding Hands Up Holidays?
It was a trip that I took to South Africa 6 years into my career. And on that trip, in addition to going on safari and staying in beautiful lodges and exploring the wonders of the garden route and the winelands, I also helped to build a house for a family in one of the townships just outside of Cape Town. And this was transformational for me and added sort of 2 extra dimensions to travel. One, I actually, in contrast to all the travel I'd done leading up to this point, on this occasion, I actually got to interact with the local people and hear their stories and share some laughs and really got to engage with them. And then secondly, it felt great to make a difference in the lives of the family that we were helping alongside to build the house. And so I got thinking, well, I've learned some good business skills working in finance. Why don't I put these into something that I would find a bit more meaningful and fulfilling and make it easy for others to have similar transformational experiences like I've just had? So that was the birthing of what a few years later became Hands Up Holidays.
Wow. And it just took that one small trip to, well, not small, obviously significant, to change that perspective for you. Obviously, the families that were impacted, what was the reaction that you got from them? Was that something that really helped kind of push this move to create this platform?
Yeah, it was. There was certainly a sense of hope and excitement for the future that previously wasn't there. In terms of just having that, having a home when you previously don't have one is super powerful. One that doesn't leak, and so an awareness that health problems are going to be reduced. So fewer sick days for their kids, so they can attend school more often, and for themselves, so they can earn more money and better provide for their children. So yeah, there was definitely that sense of the future's looking bright, and that was certainly played a part in me feeling good about what I was doing and wanting to facilitate it looking forward for others to have similar experiences.
Yeah. And as you introduced the idea of luxury volunteer travel, how's the response been from people that you've reached out to that maybe could be entertaining the idea of taking a trip like this?
Yeah, I would say almost uniformly, it's been a response around, I had no idea that you could travel in luxury and also volunteer. And I get it. It's not, they're not naturally um, go together in the same sentence, or certainly doesn't naturally spring to mind. But yeah, I've really fa- feel very, very comfortable in sort of breaking down those misconceptions, or not preconceptions, I think, um, because, well, for a variety of reasons, but primarily because our model of travel or impact really is around volunteering. And what I mean by that is that it's the funds that our clients bring, which is the major impact, and then the benefit. And then and so those funds are used to employ local people to do most of the work on a building project, or pay for the materials. And so it's the funds that enable the project to be done. And then our clients benefit from actually getting there and getting that interaction, like I experienced in South Africa. And so in order to uh, facilitate that willingness to fund a project, we've made it such that the accommodation is at the level that these clients are used to. And so they it's essentially enabling people who want to make a difference but don't want to have to rough it,
Mm,
to do that, and then fulfill that model I mentioned around philanthropy volunteering.
yeah, which is beautiful. It's so funny that I'm interviewing you now, and the interview that's going to release this coming Monday was with a woman named Shelley Howard, and she started a company that kind of does something similar, but it's based all with college, like getting kids into college and finding resources. But anywho, it kind of came about because she took her son on a trip to Africa, and it was to experience the local people. So just I think it's so beautiful that you guys are connecting these stories to help not only families but just like help the younger generation see a broader perspective of how we can impact the world. But
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I kind of wanted you to go into describing what luxury volunteer travel would look like for anyone that
Mm,
is not familiar with it.
yeah, sure. Well, it's um, let's take. I mean, we're on the theme of Africa, so um, let's pick a country. Let's look at South Africa, for example. Given this is what will happen for me, so it could be, a classic South Africa trip that we run would be flying to Cape Town and stay at, say, the one and only, or the Cape Grace, or the Mount Nelson Hotel, all these, amazing hotels in Cape Town, and have some, privatized experiences, which might be like a champagne breakfast on top of Table Mountain, um, or it could be, guided kayaking out around the Cape Peninsula, around kayaking around the penguins that are at Boulders Beach, um, visit District 6 Museum, whatever the case may be. Every trip is tailor-made, I should add. But this is, just one example of what a trip could look like. Maybe throw in some cycling, wine tasting in the winelands. And then, so you do that for a few days around Cape Town, and then you might go and do what I did, help build a house, spend a few days doing that. Or you might, we have rhino notching experiences. We have um, renovation of daycare centers. So there's a variety of things, but you might do that in the middle of the trip for a few days, and then finish with a few days on safari. And that could be, flying to Sabi Sands and staying at Singita. Singita is a popular lodge there, but there's lots of options. But so the idea is that it's you continue the luxury component of the trip in terms of hotels continues throughout the trip. So not just the sightseeing component, but also while you're volunteering, and then that's paired with sort of a holistic approach to a trip, which means that we take sustainability as an entirety. So it's not just the volunteering part that makes a difference. It's also the accommodation. We've spoken about luxury, but we also have a strong emphasis on eco luxury and seeking out those properties that take sustainability seriously, which can be in their design and construction of their property. For instance, perhaps using reclaimed materials, recycled materials, or it could be in terms of how they generate their power, perhaps using solar, or at sometimes even wind or hydro electricity generation. And then looking at their sort of the daily practices around sustainable lighting, and ideally also getting into employing people, local people in their hotel, ideally at management and even ownership level gets a big tick from us. So there's that, but then there's also in that holistic approach, looking at the restaurants that we recommend. We seek those ones out that use organic ingredients and also source their food ingredients locally. And we have a part of our philosophy is around working with local guides as opposed to bringing in guides from overseas. And where possible, using environmentally friendly forms of transportation, so, such as electric vehicles. And so that all gets wrapped together as part of our luxury volunteer vacation.
That's beautiful. And honestly, as you're describing it, I've had my passport for some time and have wanted to travel internationally. So this might be something that I need to look into, because it's not only a great way to travel, but it sounds like it's an impactful way. But I kind of wanted to ask you, because you've been doing it for a while, what do you think happens when people start to step outside of their comfort zone and serve in another part of the world and not just travel?
Mm. Well, I think it's certainly easiest just to speak for myself around, I would say, perspective changing. I spoke about, eh, fulfillment. The tends to be, sort of, inner change. And so it's things like, for me, it's helped me with generosity. It's helped with contentment, and gratitude. Uh, and certainly, I think contentment and gratitude go hand in hand. And for me, it's been one of the big lessons has been around, um, yeah, being happy with what I have, rather than looking for the next thing, or looking over the fence and see what the neighbors have, um, but being content and being grateful for what I do have, has been a hugely transformational thing for me, and I attribute that to the volunteer travel experiences that I've had.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Have you had any stories from any of the travelers that have taken trips that you felt were pretty powerful?
Sure. A couple that spring to mind would be, we had a family travel with us to Morocco, and there they helped with building a library in a small school about 45 minutes outside of Marrakesh. And the kids were quite young, so they were mostly focused on just playing with the local kids, and
Mm,
getting that interaction, rather than physically building. I mean, they did a little bit, but they were mostly on the play side. And the trip went really well. And then I heard from them that they reported back that Christmas time came, and their kids end up saying, actually, we don't want our gifts this year. We want to send the gifts to the children that we were interacting with in Morocco. And so, yeah, that absolutely touched my heart to hear that. And then another one, also in Africa. We're on an Africa theme tonight, today, which I should add, we don't only focus on Africa, but continuing that theme, there was a woman who had retired and she hadn't traveled very much. And definitely her first time to Africa. And she selected Kenya. And so she was what I would describe as a bit of a nervous traveler. And so required more than usual hand-holding leading up to the trip and during the trip itself. And again, the trip went well, and just great to hear that she enjoyed it. But what really made it super special was that she was pretty much on the next flight back to Kenya. And this time around, she had booked her own accommodation. She'd rented an apartment, and she'd got a lease on a vehicle, and she was driving through Nairobi on her own, and had decided to spend, I think, 4 months at this project that she had spent just a few days with us, and she'd organized it all herself. And so we had nothing to do with that, but it was just so great to see that the change in her and the level of confidence and obviously the impact that just a few days had made to her to want to spend, a substantial amount of time at going forward.
That's so beautiful. And transforming people's lives, like literally giving them a whole new personality. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
What lessons do you feel you've learned from doing this work and working in places that have such different cultures and needs?
I would say, in addition to the contentment lesson that I touched on, it would be that there's so much richness in this world, culturally, that from Mayan families in Belize through to hill tribes in Vietnam. There's fascinating things to learn and observe, and also, I think it brings back just, whilst there's cultural richness and distinctivenesses, by far and away, there's shared humanity, which is our bond, and so much more in common, and so that's led to me to have how to describe it, an attitude of seeking reconciliation and peace and bondedness more than looking for differences which can divide. An attitude more for me of looking for where there is common ground in all my interactions, and focus on those more than the things that can divide. Yeah.
The things that can separate us. I really, I think what's the most impactful thing about what you're doing is that you're impacting so many families, so many communities, and that takes a very strong person to interact with so many different personalities. So I kind of wanted to ask, what keeps you grounded through all of this? I mean, you're not spread thin, but you're spread pretty far out with a lot of different outreach. And I wanted to make sure I mentioned this. You said you wanted to give back by making sure you're giving back to be woven into every journey. So when you're giving back, everything should be woven into every journey. I kind of wanted you to kind of elaborate on that, but more so, like I was asking before, like, How are you keeping yourself so grounded?
Mm. For me, it's getting the emails or phone calls from our clients, um, and reading or hearing about the impact that they are having, that uh, keeps me going, and gets me out of bed in the morning. Just jumping out of bed to read those. And in terms of being grounded, yeah, interesting. I'd say my kids keep me grounded for sure, and my faith would keep me grounded. Certainly, feeling like, yes, I'm where God wants me to be, but keep doing that.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I faith has been something that has been strong within me as well as almost every single guest that has been on this show, and I feel like that is just divine purpose at its highest calling. um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's beautiful. How do you keep your mission alive while also running a successful company?
Mm. Well, I think by having our mission at the heart of everything we do, um, means that it's easy, because I think, when our point of difference is such a positive thing, then people are drawn to it, and we can only be successful if we're living out that mission. So that it's a beautiful virtuous circle.
What is, and it seems I love everything that you're doing. What has been the hardest part about keeping everything up, keeping going, or keeping the
Mm.
mission alive?
Well, what springs to mind would be COVID.
Oh,
More or less a one-off event, but for 2 years there, we had zero income because people weren't traveling. So that was very difficult for sure.
wow. Yeah, COVID definitely transformed a lot of people's lives. I mean, even mine, I
Yeah,
would say that
yeah, we're
was,
not unique there.
yeah. That's definitely, yeah, one of those milestones. What advice would you give to any entrepreneurs or business owners that want to build a business, but also make a difference at the same time?
Mm. Well, I would say, take an assessment of where you're at in life. Certainly, I was very fortunate that at the time that I had this idea, one, had been working in a well-paying job, but secondly, I wasn't married at that point. I didn't have kids to worry about, and I didn't have a mortgage. Those sort of big obligations to worry about, and so for me, it was quite a calculated risk. Um, yeah, it was absolutely a risk. Leaving my job and starting up a new venture that was unique. Um, but and so I think people need to take an assessment of where they're at, and then couple that with getting that idea, setting aside a time to be sure that you do have the idea of a I mean, you framed it beautifully in terms of it's an entrepreneur who wants to do something that has a purposeful component. So be just clear on what that purpose is, and make that distinctive, and your USP, your unique selling point. So you really leverage off that purpose, and then if you're at that stage of life where maybe you do have um, a mortgage to work, to focus on, or a family to provide for, you can still do it. You can still fulfill those entrepreneurial dreams, but it might take longer. So it becomes, certainly initially, it can be your side hustle, and so then it's important just to carve out that a bit of time each day to work on that, once you're, home from your day job, set aside that time uh, to, to work on it. And so I guess what I'm saying is that whatever stage you are in life, um, with the right discipline, you can, um, even if it's small amounts, this comes back to, James Clear, Atomic Habits. It's small things do add up. So if you use that discipline, even if it's 15 minutes a day, you can eventually get there. And especially if your idea does have that purpose, and you're focusing on that as your mission, and focusing on that through, with your marketing lens as well, thinking, okay, how can I utilize this to attract people? It would be my advice.
Thank you. And I know a lot of listeners that are listening to this episode or will listen to this episode are in that stage of trying to figure out their next big step, or if they should even take it. And I've been the biggest advocate, and I try to ask every guest that I have on, because each person has expertise on how to run a business, a successful one at that. And anything that we can, take for the listeners, I truly appreciate, because I know it'll help that next person take that right next step, or to take that push, or to, like you said, if they have kids and they have a 9 to 5, use those extra hours when they get home to actually
Mm,
start. Because I feel that's the hardest part, is starting. Um,
yeah, yeah, it is.
how was that for you? Like, when you started it, were there moments where you wanted to give up? But
No, I don't think of any moments of giving up. Um, no, it was. I think because it was this combination of a passion for travel, and wanting to make a difference in the world, and feeling like this is where God wants me to be. Um, all those things combined meant that. I mean, there were challenges, but it was a fantastically exciting ride as well.
yeah,
And that's, being in the travel industry. So I got the idea on that trip in South Africa, which is in 2002. And then I did some more study in 2003 over in Vancouver, Canada. And then I spent the next 2 years traveling the world, and building relationships with different communities. And so it's incredibly fun.
yeah. Well, that sounds like the best way to do it. Travel and get to know a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have there been any, because I'm looking at this next question. Have there been any misconceptions when it comes to any customers that you've interacted with, about combining luxury with giving
Mm,
back? And
mm. I don't think so once they reach the customer point. I mean, certainly at the pre-customer point, there's misconceptions, just around not getting it, not getting the concept. But once it is explained, and they move to the point of becoming a customer, and in terms of the actual experiencing of the trips, um, been really fortunate that we have explained that well, and I think there's never been an issue on the luxury side. Um, and then we've been blessed that, coming back to this point about USP, our USP is to include a volunteering part. So um, people are either drawn to that or they're not. But if they
yeah,
are, then that's what they're booking the trip for. It's not going to be a surprise on them.
yeah,
um, and and so yeah, I think, and we've been really blessed that by the nature of what we're offering in terms of the volunteering experience, our clients have just been so wonderful. They've been so delightful to work with. Yes, they do want the creature comforts and are seeking that luxury aspect, but there's so much. There's still the mentality of graciousness and grace and generosity about all of our clients. It's remarkable. Really very fortunate to have the clients we have.
I feel like when you're in your purpose, though, you genuinely attract people that align with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
And that's probably been the case for you. And that's beautiful. I think that just proves more so God wants you exactly where you're at and you're
Mm,
impacting who you need to be. So with that being said, with all the places that you've been and all the lives you've impacted, what have you learned about humanity through this work?
mm. I'm probably repeating myself, but
That's
to
good.
say that we we share so much more in common than differences. And whilst there is absolutely cultural richness, um, which is to be embraced, I should say, um, for me, the key lesson, and I know I am repeating myself, but it
That's all
is
right.
to focus on what is similar and what overlaps our humanity, and and really to use that as a focal point. And I mean, we're in a time right now which is, incredibly divisive, and not just across countries, but even within countries, there's a lot of um, divisiveness. But I think for me, I much prefer to focus on what unites us than what separates us, and look for the common ground, and start from that as a point of relationship building. and and there are incredible examples as well of reconciliation that I have um, been in awe of. I think the pinnacle example would be coming back to South Africa, what Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Desmond Tutu set up with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, after apartheid, um, was just an extraordinary example of grace in action. When despite all of the horrors of apartheid, a willingness to put that behind South Africa as a nation, and move forward in a way that can unite and bond a country together. Um, for me, was, yeah, as I said, the best example, but was God, um, the message of grace, in its purest form at a country level.
Yeah. And that's, I think for anyone that's watching, they can definitely relate to what you're saying about just the divisiveness that's going on in this world and
Mm,
how it can really, uh, I don't even know the words, how it can just bring so much darkness is the word that's coming to mind, but really I don't
sure,
feel like
yeah.
that's really the right one, but just,
Well,
it's a weird time to be in. But
mm,
we're,
mm.
sorry.
Well, I mean, part of that, there's a lot of, in a lot of countries, sort of anti-immigration feelings, and I think the key to a, a a a key aspect of that is losing perspective on humanity, um, and very much othering of people, let's say, immigrants or refugees. And for me, travel helps with making it perfectly clear that, well, I've spoken about, just another way of saying it, really, that through travel, it's helped me with compassion, but it's also helped with appreciation for other cultures, and at its essence, humanity, that we are all humans. And I think that is the fundamental bedrock to keep in mind that it's too easy to other and dehumanize people. And for me, engaging travel is the opposite of that. It's actually, as I mentioned, sharing stories, sharing laughs. You realize and brings home humanity, across cultures, across demographics, across nations, and it might be putting a big burden on travel to say that if people traveled more, we would have less divisiveness on the issue of immigration. But I think we probably would.
I think we would too, especially in the ways that you have introduced us, traveling in a way that you can not only travel and get the luxury side of things that most people want when they travel, but also you're giving back. I don't see how that wouldn't be um, a way to help open people's eyes. But I'd love to, do you guys have anything that's coming up? I mean, as far as your movement, I know you guys are, obviously offering these travel packages, but is there anything that you're excited for going forward?
Yeah, we've got some destinations in the pipeline that I'm, excited to be launching in the coming months around. Well, one we've just launched is in Honduras and Roatan Island,
Nice.
but also looking at more destinations in the Caribbean or Caribbean, depending on how you pronounce it, such as Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and then looking at we haven't really spoken about the other brand impact destinations, but really quickly on that, the idea with impact destinations is that a traveler's philanthropic donation is what enables the experts to do what they do best. So it's moving away from actually the traveler physically, hammering in the nails or mixing the cement or something, and focusing it fully on the local experts receiving the funding and doing what they do best. Such as, an example would be in Indonesia, orangutans face habitat loss and thus death due to palm oil production. Palm oil that goes into a lot of the foods that we eat, and so this is the opportunity for guests to fund the rescue of an orangutan family from these areas that are facing habitat loss to protected reserves. And then in exchange for that, they then get to go into a exclusive tract of rainforest and look for orangutans and sun bears and other wildlife in the wild. And so the whole idea is that your donation is made and it enables the experts to do what they do best, and then also unlocks a unique experience for the traveler. Another one that we're working on is actually being able to fund in Thailand, fund a raid, like a child rescue raid of a establishment that has underage girls as slaves, and so funding a police raid there, so you can basically be able to say, I helped save the lives of these underage slave girls, and then in exchange for that, you actually get to spend time with the police officers, both before and after the raid, to hear how they're preparing for it, and then hear how it went firsthand.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. And just so that everyone is aware, Impact Destinations is the company you were just explaining right now, which is different from the other one, Hands Up Holidays, which is what we were
Yeah,
talking. So you've got
yeah.
your hand full, and wow, that's amazing. Just making impacts all over the world. Do you feel impact destinations, for anyone that's listening, if they were to say, like, oh, I really want to make a difference, but I'm not sure how, or, what would be the best option for me, where would you lean more towards when, if someone is looking at both?
Mm, hmm, great question. I would say to an extent it depends on stage of life. Again, there's no wrong or right answer to that. But if you have kids, I would tend to recommend Hands Up Holidays, because that's where you can, um, by helping together, for instance, on building a house, it's a great, amazing bonding experience. So not only do you make a positive impact for the family that you're building for, it's amazing for your family to get involved in that way. And then uh, perhaps, but yeah, as I said, there's no right or wrong answer to this. But maybe if you're in that older category, and aren't so willing to to roll up your sleeves and, as I say, bang the nails, and then impact destinations might be a better fit for you.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Um, I only have a few more questions, but I kind of wanted to ask before you go, how do you hope your work continues to inspire future generations of travelers and entrepreneurs?
Mm. Well, I think really in the two ways I just mentioned, in terms of with families, um, certainly for me, it's how I am loving to travel with my own family, and Hands Up Holidays certainly focuses primarily on families, because part of it is to inspire the next generation of world changers, and so the younger we start that, the better. But at the same time, destinations can be very much around leaving a legacy, and some of our you well, put it this way, about 80% of our projects are wildlife conservation focused. And so that's around preserving wildlife for future generations to be able to enjoy that as well. You mentioned orangutans, we touched on rhinos, but there's also projects with snow leopards, with Arctic foxes, kiwis, um, even Tasmanian devils who face a facial tumor disease, which is killing them in Australia. Um, so there's that, but then also things like another project we offer in Australia is funding a scholarship for a promising Aboriginal young arts student, and then in return for that, guests can spend time with an established Aboriginal artist from whom they can commission their own unique work of art. And so there's opportunities to provide a better future for for young Aboriginal art students as well. So I would say these are the things that excite me around setting things up for the next generation.
Yeah, I think it's super exciting. It gives us parents a lot of options as far as, making an impact ourselves or making it with our kids. So thank you for doing this. And thank you for following your God given talent and purpose on this world and impacting so many families and human beings. Um, yeah, but before you go, I would love for you to let us know, where can we follow you? Where can we go to the websites? Any links that we're going to leave in the show notes? Um, so anyone that wants to join or anyone that wants to travel with you, they can.
Well, thanks so much, Devon, for the opportunity to share my story and let more people know about what we offer. But yeah, so I mentioned two websites. That's probably the best way, because actually every inquiry that comes through to me, and I handle every inquiry personally. And so they are handsupholidays.com and impactdestinations.com. All one word for both of them.
Perfect. Thank you so much again, Christopher, being here, telling your story, and just kind of sharing what you guys are doing, and how you're impacting the world. I hope my followers can book a trip with you and share their experiences. So thank you so much.
Be amazing. Thanks again, Devon.
Yeah, of course. And until next time, guys, I will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, it's Icarus here.
And Amelia.
And I'm here to tell you if you'd like to join our brand new adventure. Go to DevonTaylorAuthor.com to learn more.
And check out the cool items like the new bucket hat.
Yeah, and so much more. See you guys there.